Early Bitcoin sucked, man. Anyone who thinks holding was easy is just so delusional. It's like the market of something over the course of like hundreds of years, but like condensed into like under 20 years time frame. Price going up can be uncomfortable too. It's definitely, a lot of times it can be more uncomfortable than when it goes down. And I think if you've been in it long enough, you understand what I'm saying. You're always worshiping something, right? And to me, it's like, I think I got in at $5. Like that was, to me, like I loved bear markets. Bear markets were I was kind of comfortable in the bear market. You find what you're good at and you just stick with that. And I think good things can happen in your life. And that could be something as random as making baklava.
What's your takeaway on that? I mean, I saw you guys in Nashville and you looked like you were having an amazing time. And then
what is real? How do you define real?
You can't jump into cash. Cash is trash. What do? You get out.
it's not every day we get a legendary Bitcoin OG up in the house. Mandrik cleaned toilets and sold baklava for Bitcoin in 2011. Mandrik, welcome to the Bitcoin Matrix podcast. How are you?
Wow, that's pretty lofty accolades, but yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this conversation kind of for years. You've kind of been someone, I'll call it the circuit, that like I've just really always wanted to meet and really actually get free baklava. I'll be honest.
Of course, I get it.
Starting back, I guess for me, back to Miami. I think I saw you in the Swan Dome. Yeah, and I was like, I got to get some baklava and try that. Just to say I got the free baklava.
I think that was Bitcoin. Was it 2021?
I think that was 2020 or 2021. No, it couldn't have been 2020. 2021 or 20. Right. I think, and then I saw you, I think, in 2022 in Miami.
Yeah.
And probably 2023 in Nashville. Always in passing, always with baklava. I always feel very fortunate. But also it just seems like, my wife always points this out, it seems like you got the good vibes.
That's what I'm just trying to do, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And it seems like you're always in the right place. Like you're just like vibing into the right place. Like I think everyone at these bigger conferences is like scrambling to know what the right place is. And it's just like, I don't know, wherever Mandrik ends up, somehow either it'll be in the right place or that will be the place.
You know, it's funny you say that. That's kind of like how I got into Bitcoin, like for sure. Like that's how I ended up working in industry for so long, just right place. Well, the thing is, when you have food, everybody wants to eat it, right? If it's good food. So they kind of just make it the place, right? So you kind of, you find what you're good at and you just stick with that. And I think good things can happen in your life. Sure. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I don't know how to code, so I can't work in Bitcoin. Well, it's like, well, there's a lot of other things you could be doing, or, you know, a lot of different ways to meet people and get jobs and, or whatever, network with people. Just put yourself in situations doing something that you're good at.
Yeah.
And that can be something as random as making baklava. You know, it's a social lubricant. That's what you need.
When did you start making baklava?
Oh man, when I was a kid, I've always loved cooking. That's been like my passion. I always loved as a kid, my Greek family, like being at my grandma's house and like sitting in the kitchen and watching her cook and eating the food and stuff. Like I've always been a food person for sure. I was a fat kid too, so I was really like food. And I grew up in my dad's diner. He had a donut shop, so it's like I grew up in the business. Like I got to see it firsthand behind the scenes how restaurants operate. That was just my life. So to me, like I've always been fascinated and I've always enjoyed cooking, and it's just been a big part of my life. And I'm very passionate about it, but not professionally. You know, when I had to do it for work, I hated it. Like I hate when I come in to a restaurant and it's like, here we go, making the same crap again today, you know, like, and it's just, don't enjoy it. So hot, very stressful environment. But you learn a lot of things working in a restaurant. You know, if you have kids, you always want to be like, hey, once you can get a job, it's like, go work at a restaurant, because you'll learn a lot of things. Like you'll learn that you don't want to do this for the rest of your life, but you're going to learn a lot about what real work is, and, you know, hard work, stress, things like that. And then if you ever end up like in an office or something, you're going to be like, man, this is nothing. Like, this is easy.
That's interesting. I've never wanted to work in a kitchen, never liked cooking. I don't think I'll eat anything I make. But it's kind of talking about that a little bit. I mean, do you still seem to have a passion for making baklava and cooking? Do you eat the baklava?
So I actually went like keto in like 2011. 2011 was like this was like an insane year for me. I went through a divorce. I got laid off. I wanted to stop being a fat pig and went from like 260 down to like 215 pounds. Just like obviously Bitcoin too by the end of 2011. Like it was an insane year for me. So when I went keto, like I stopped eating baklava, and I hadn't had baklava since a year ago. I hired a trainer, and I worked with him, and I went through this big cut. I was in like a huge calorie deficit for 10 months. It was absolutely painful. And that went from like June of 2024, and I started at like 205 pounds, and I ended at 161 with 12% body fat by the end of April. And the day after my cut ended, I ate a piece of baklava for the first time in like 13, 14 years. I was like, you know what? I earned it. I'm going to just do it. And it was nice. I liked it, but I'm like, I don't need to do this all the time. It was fine. But it was kind of cool. It was a nice way to reward myself. Like for the memes, it's like, I should just eat some baklava. So it was good too. And I had it and I was like, man, now I see why it's like, I forgot why everybody loved it so much. Cause I'm like, man, people love this baklava. And I'm over here like, I haven't eaten it in so long. And I forgot. I literally forgot. So when I bit into it, I almost cried from like the overwhelming taste of how sweet it was. I haven't eaten anything that sweet in over a decade. And it was insane. Like it was like a time traveler eating food from today for the first time. Like it was nuts. Literally, I mean walnuts, but yeah, it was really good. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't really want to eat this kind of stuff all the time. But it's nice that I can do that now if I want to. Like I feel like I'm in a good place, with my physique and mentally.
Yeah, I mean, you're sharing a lot about the health journey on Twitter. It's very interesting. I think about like how would you phrase it? Do you think if maybe you're denying yourself gratification, or you're protecting yourself from certain things coming into your like sort of spiritual, physical, and sort of health realm?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter in a lot of ways. Like we need to enjoy life. You can relate it a lot to like holding Bitcoin, right? When you watch the price go up and you're just like, oh my gosh, the price went up. I can now afford. I could buy this and that and that, and it's like you could really do some things and enjoy life with profits, right? Or you could hold off on that and just be like, hey, you know what? I'm really happy with what I have right now, and this isn't really a good reason to sell Bitcoin right now, even though it's at an all-time high or something, and you have to make that decision. And then sometimes it's like, you know what, though, I'm going to have that piece of cake today. Forget it. It's like, I'm just going to enjoy it and it's fine. It's not going to kill me. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and eat another cake and, eat cake every day for the rest of my life. It's like, it's really like, I think it's about being in a space where, you're not just constantly just doing what feels good necessarily, because what feels good in the moment, because if you do that for so long, it's not going to feel good for long. I learned that lesson weirdly enough with cereal as a child. I used to love Captain Crunch. Okay, Captain Crunch with Crunchberries. This sounds like a weird tangent, but no, I think it plays into it. So like, I loved Captain Crunch, which is of course is garbage, right? Most cereals are just 99% of cereals just garbage, probably all of it. But Captain Crunch Crunchberries, so good. And then in the 90s, they came out with Oops All Berries. They got rid of the Captain Crunch cereal and it's just the Crunchberries. I'm like, that's the best thing. Because when I would eat Captain Crunch with Crunchberries, I do the autistic thing where I would eat all the Captain Crunch and I leave all the Crunchberries in my bowl and then I would eat them last. Well, Oops All Berries came out and it's like, this is the best part. So then you're just eating a bowl of the quote unquote berries. After a box or two of that, you're like, it's just a crappy cereal. There's nothing special about this. So it kind of relates to that in a lot of ways. It's like, too much of a good thing or too much of something that you think is really special, and it turns out it's like it's really not that special sometimes. But sometimes things are special. It really just you kind of have to make that decision. I'm not saying like don't enjoy anything in life and just live in misery. But sometimes you just really need to think things through and be like, is this really worth doing? Is this really worth? Like I said, it applies to Bitcoin. Is this worth selling Bitcoin for?
Yeah, for sure.
How am I going to feel about this in a decade if I did this right now?
Talking about sort of like how we feel. I mean, there's a few tweets here that I want to read that are completely different, right? And I don't mean from this different person, but maybe just kind of like show the joy and the pain of living this sort of like ethos or lifestyle. But like this one, I thought was interesting because I think a lot of us maybe think about, see someone like you and think, he's just vibing. He's a Bitcoin OG. He can just do whatever he wants. And you kind of talk about like, maybe doing whatever you want in the moment, feeling good all the time is not going to make you feel good. So I want to read a little about, so one tweet you wrote, all week I've been a zombie, napping on the couch, barely able to get through my workouts, pushing hard to the finish line Saturday. I look forward to sharing my fitness journey here and on Nostr. It's been an incredible 10 months and I'm just getting started. I mean, that sounds like you're pushing yourself really hard and like kind of not having fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to do that aren't fun in life, right? That's just like that's just part of life. You can't just like, no matter what, even the richest people, they have to deal with all kinds of stressful situations, right? And if you have children, firsthand, like we both have kids. We understand that, like we know how that is, that there's just moments where it's not the most enjoyable time. But when you look back on things and you look back on memories, you look on moments that you at the time were just awful and painful or just pure misery, and you look back on them and maybe with even some fondness, and you think about where you are today and who you are now because you went through that, and you just like, I'm so glad I did that, right? I'm so glad I conquered whatever fear or like with my fitness thing. I'm so glad that I went through that pain of 10 months of just like eating less food because I spent so much time not eating well, especially in my youth. And it's like, now I feel like I'm in my mid 40s and I feel the best I've ever felt in my life. So it's like, yeah, I felt miserable a couple months ago, but it was completely worth it. Like there's no regrets with that.
No pain, no gain, proof of work.
It's just like, hey, sure, I've been in Bitcoin a long time and it's changed my life completely in like such a great way. And I love that. But I kind of came to that mindset when I got into Bitcoin and I had no money. I was completely poor. Like, it's not like I was cleaning toilets and making baklava because I was so rich and I had nothing else to do. It's like, no, I literally had no money. But I also had like this mindset where I didn't want to go back to Fiat world. I was done with it. I'd spent 10 years at a cable company. I got laid off. Like they kept closing the departments I was working for, and I kept, going to a different job in the company. And because I was like, I got to stick around, this is where I'm going to be working the rest of my life. But it was just a dead end job that paid like crap. And I didn't get any like pleasure out of it. It was just the most mediocre thing. Like it was just a life of mediocrity. That's all it was. And I just like, I refused to go back to that. Now, working a job doesn't have to be that, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could just go out on my own and do something. And it's like, well, what can I do? Well, okay, I could cook food for people. So I was doing that. I was living in New Hampshire where Bitcoin was taking off amongst free staters, a lot of libertarian types. I mean, New Hampshire was the first place in the world that you could have like a closed loop Bitcoin economy back then. Like there was nowhere else you could do that in 2011, 2012.
Wow.
So I was kind of in the right place at the right time in that situation. And I just decided that that's what I wanted it to be Bitcoin related. So I found other Bitcoiners in the area who needed things done around their house. I'd clean their houses. I did personal chef work, where it's like people would give me their grocery list and some foods they want to eat. And I would, I'd get all the food and I'd make the food and it's like, here's your food for the week. And then I also had like a food stand. I'd go to like little free stater events where sometimes there'd be a dozen, 2 dozen people, sometimes those thousands of people, like at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And I had a food stand and I would just cook. So I made all the connections I made in Bitcoin, Roger Ver, all these people, Charlie Shrem in the early days, all because I was selling food because they all had to eat. And me and my buddy, we had the biggest and best food stand at these festivals. I met like Vitalik there. I met like Eric. I knew Eric Voorhees through the Free State Project, but like all these people that are in Bitcoin for so long, I met them all because I was feeding them. And because everyone's got to eat. You're up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and you're hungry and it's like, oh, this guy's selling bacon weave sandwiches. Yeah, we had a long line. People wanted our food. It was amazing. So it was cool. And that was a great way to meet people. I didn't know it would turn out me working in the industry, 5 years because of doing that. It's not like I set out to do that. Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to start this food stand and then I'm going to get connections and then I'm going to work. No, it's not. You just you get these new opportunities and it's like, ooh, do I want to do this? It sounds kind of scary. This, working for startups in Bitcoin. And it's like everything could go south in those early days. It's like you had no job security. You didn't know what was going to happen with Bitcoin, but it was like, I'd rather just do this and it fails and figure something else out later because it's like, it felt like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it really was. Oh. And it was so cool. Like I started working at Blockchain.info in September of 2013 after BitInstant got shut down, which was like the best way to buy Bitcoin in the early days with cash. You would just, you could go to CVS and use cash and use the little red MoneyGram phone, and it was really this weird convoluted way of buying Bitcoin, but it worked, and it was no KYC. You could buy up to $300 or $600, something like that, with cash, and it would you get your Bitcoin when it worked. You'd get it instantly. And then they got shut down, of course, because the regulations and stuff those types of things started. Regulators started seeing what was going on. They're like, no, you need to, money transmitter, blah, 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 all this crap. So then I hopped over to Blockchain.info, and I brought my wife on board too. She was the second employee. I was the first. Right after they hired me, and it's like, hey, bring her on. She can run all the social media. So it was really cool. It's like we're working for, at the time, like the biggest Bitcoin web wallet at the time, the one block explorer everybody was using more than anybody else back in 2013, and it was just like such a cool opportunity. And you're in there at the ground floor, just wearing all these hats, doing all these different jobs. I was running customer service, but there were so many other jobs I was doing too, and it was just really neat to be a part of that. Like I love that, and it was. I wouldn't trade that for the world. And it's being able to do that with my wife for so many years at her side. Like when we were on vacation, we were always working. We were always working, no matter what, because that's all we wanted to be doing. And I look back on that now, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that, because I never want to do that again. It was insane. I mean, like, you're on vacation. I have twin daughters, and they were young, and it was cool to be able to work from home and be around them a lot. But it's just like you go from a 9 to 5 to 24/7. That's how it is when you're working for a startup. It's 24/7. When you're in there early and you're super passionate about what you're doing. And again, you didn't really have job security. So it's like, it was nice to have that, to be in a position where what you're doing actually matters. I think that's what's really cool, versus working at some dead end job at an office where everybody's replaceable, right? There's no satisfaction. Your management doesn't care how good of a job you got this work done in 2 hours that someone else took 6. They don't care. They just give you more, stupid work to do. At least that was my experience. So being in an environment where if you don't do the work you need to do, like the company will literally, maybe not fail, but like it gets noticed, it will get noticed immediately. I liked having that pressure. It was that good kind of pressure to have.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's worked in a startup, especially early startup days, understands what that's like. And you're so passionate about it. It doesn't matter how many times you get burned out. It's like, there's no other place you'd rather be in that moment in your life.
Yeah. I would kind of relate it to, it's kind of like, it's more in the moment than that sort of that corporate desk job.
Yep.
Where, it's very zombie-esque, but when you're at work at a startup, it's like almost being in sports, like almost being an athlete. You don't have time to think. You're in the moment. You got to do. You got to collaborate. You have to build teamwork, organize around a mission. I feel like we're going to have to dodge and weave from the beginning of the rainbow to the end of the rainbow here a lot, kind of to draw out what the journey's like. So I think just so much I'm so interested in hearing about the beginning and the end stories. This one sounds like at the end of the rainbow, this tweet. And we'll go here next. So most days I walk 25,000 steps, go to bed tired, and wonder how I'll do it again. I wake up refreshed at 4 a.m. and do it again every day. It's having a psychological and existential impact on me that I can't fully comprehend, but I know it's leading me to a place I want to go. I mean, it sounds like heaven.
Sounds like hell too, though.
I don't know. I mean, all of us are trying to get our steps in a weird way, like to just kind of like be human, I think, and be upright and walk and kind of get our thoughts in order or stop being so out of order and be outside and be in the sun. And actually then at the end of the day to be gratifyingly tired in that way, I think. And wonder how you could ever do it again and wake up refreshed at 4 a.m. wanting to do it again. I mean, that sounds like most people would kill to have that morning, because most of us at 4 a.m. are like that's not even smashing snooze button time. That's I need 5 more hours of sleep here. So
I'm getting up to pee and going back to sleep.
But what has this been like though? I mean, how can you describe it at all? The 4 a.m. thing, I'm still struggling with understanding. I've always been like somebody who's never needed a lot of sleep. I've never been an 8-hour sleeper. I've always been like, maybe as a teenager, 6-7 hours. But the older I get, you always hear like people get older and they sleep less. I think that's a thing. I don't know. But like, I'm in my mid 40s, and now I'm like last night, I think I slept 4.5 hours. And I woke up and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I go and did a leg day at the gym and I killed it. I was doing awesome there and felt good. I don't know, like the 4 a.m. thing, I think it's like a genetic thing. From what I've been trying to understand, the short sleepers, it's a thing where like people genetically don't need as much sleep as other people. And I'd love to get tested for this if there's like some ethical way to get it done. Genome testing, DNA, get your
send your DNA off somewhere. It's like, but I'd love to know for a fact. I'm pretty sure, like, I have all the markers of it, but like, I just don't need as much sleep. And I'm starting to realize that, like, and it feels like a gift. Like, it really is a gift where you're like, hey, you get to live longer, not like necessarily like you get to spend more time alive. Like, that's insane. I literally get an extra month or two awake per year versus like an average person. And I'm like coming to terms with that. I'm like, why is this a thing? Like, this is crazy. And it's like, you hear about this too with like, people like Elon Musk or Donald Trump. They're like, they don't sleep a lot and they've never needed a lot of sleep. Apparently it's something that affects like 1 in 100 people. And there's, or some, maybe it's even less than that. And it's like 1% population, I feel like. So maybe it is that. And it's like, apparently there's no like downside to it. It can actually be good for like people who have that are like less likely to have like dementia and things like that. So that's what the 4 a.m. thing is. Like, I'll go to bed some nights, 9:30, 10 o'clock, but then I'm up so early. Like last night I went to bed 9:30 and I was up at 3:30 today. And I'm just like, I look at my watch and I'm like, am I really getting up at this? I'm still like, I've only been doing this. It's weird. The healthier I've gotten, the less sleep I've needed. And I like 4.5, 5 hours has been my zone. And it's like, why is this a thing? So I'm still just trying to understand that. Like, I don't know if I need to get a sleep study done. Like, I don't know if I really want to do that, but I'd like to talk more about that with like people who understand it. And it's apparently it's not something that's that crazily understood. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if you got the time, it's a thing, just enjoy, like spend that time doing more things that you want to do. So, I wake up early. I love walking outside. Like, it's nice getting that early sun, but it's really nice getting when there's no sun. Like, be like that weird what's my wife calls it, the psychopath hour, like the 4 a.m. hour, where like before the sun comes up and watching that the first rays of light hit. It's like such a cool time to be outside. Like, I really love that. It's just like going out right when the sun's setting. Like, that's a nice time too. But like really early when the world's still pretty much asleep, I don't know, there's something special about that hour, especially when I'm like on vacation or something. I really love, that's my favorite time to go like for a walk somewhere and just like explore a little bit. And people ask me like, oh, you put your headphones on and listen to a book? And I'm like, no. Especially if I'm like not at home, especially then, because it's like situational awareness is so important. But I love hearing the sounds of like the birds and all that stuff. Like, it's kind of just like greeting the world as it wakes up. You start hearing a few of the birds. You're up before the birds. That's when it's early. But I love hearing them start to sing and things like that. It's like a really cool vibe. And then like going to the gym really early, and then like 8 a.m. rolls around and you're just like, okay, I did all this. I got all these stuff done. I already had some breakfast. I got these dishes done. I did like my morning walk. I did my morning workout, and it's 8 a.m. And and you're like, I'm ready to go. Like, I can do whatever now. I got all these chores and stuff out of the way. Now I can just go do whatever I want. Like, that's kind of a cool vibe to have.
Well, so, healthy, energized, working out.
Yeah.
And just the vibing in the moment. And so there's another tweet, I think that really, so now it's 8 a.m. You go do what you want. So here's a tweet. Random awesome things while out walking. Saw a guy propose to his girlfriend on the pedestrian bridge. It was cute. They had a friend filming, but no one around reacted to the moment. So I clapped and yelled some encouragement when she said yes. Grats, random strangers. Then I saw a cute older couple walking hand in hand, probably in their 70s. I commented on it saying, I hope that's still my wife and I one day. They loved it. I'm trying to say kind things to strangers more often. I think those moments can have a lot of meaning. Peace. What do you think now?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are guilty of not really caring about what's going on in the world around us, especially with other people. I know I was. For most of my life, whether it's like a homeless person on the side of the street or just like seeing people walking around, like I've always just been to myself, and I never really wanted to interact with just strangers. I always found it uncomfortable. But then when they would say something to me that was kind or do something random, small kindness, it really sticks with you. Like as a guy, if some female or even a male, whatever, says something really nice to you, like some stranger, that just feels good. Like that can just like stick with you for like weeks, just some like random little kind act. And I don't know, I just woke up one day and I was like, why am I not doing this stuff for people? Like, it literally costs nothing to do. There's no time investment. You literally just walk by somebody and say something, and it takes like 3 seconds. And it's like, yeah, it puts you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but like, if they don't like it, okay. If they're not like, you don't have to be creepy about it. You just say something and then it's just like, okay, haha. So you don't have to stick around. You don't need names and exchange phone numbers. You just say it and you keep moving on and whatever, just like these random little things. So it's like, I've just been more conscious of that and I've just been trying to do that more often. And I found that it not only, I think it definitely brightens up other people's days, but it brightens up your own day too, and it's just kind of fun. And it's just about being a little bit more pleasant and nice to people around you. It's situational, right? There's times where it's like, I'm not going to say something here, but like, there's other times where it's like, oh, this feels like the right time to just drop a line, just say something small, just say something funny or whatever, just silly. And yeah, I've just been doing that lately. I do it, like I'll be out with my kids and stuff and they kind of like it too. I've even, like one thing that I've really been bad about in my life, and my dad taught me better and I never followed it, was I think it's tricky with homeless people, right? Because homeless is a problem. And if you've been to any city, you see it everywhere you go, right? Like it's crazy. And it's like homeless in LA are very different from homeless in New York City, right? Like New York City homeless, they're built different in a lot of ways. Like they got some resilience, and I don't know. It's like I've been to New York a lot more than LA, but like I don't know, like it's just a whole different vibe in New York. But I've always just ignored like they don't exist. And when they talk to you, like I've just done the thing where it's like I don't even look at them, I don't acknowledge them or whatever. And like I said, I grew up in my dad's diner. If he had somebody come in and they were like, "Hey, I'm hungry, I don't have any money," he always fed them. He just always fed them. And I would be like, "Why do you do that?" Like they're gonna just keep coming around and getting free food. And he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "I'm fine with that. Like if somebody needs to eat and they don't like," he's like, "I'm not gonna sit there and give them money if they want to buy drugs or alcohol or whatever." He's like, "But I'll feed them." It's like I got no problem doing that. And I'm like, you know what? That's actually, I think that's a pretty good way to think, because everybody has to eat, right? We all have to survive. Everybody's situation's different. People are they're going through things and whatever. Like, so I've tried to be a little bit more conscious of that too. If somebody asks me for help, I'll offer to feed them, right? Like I think that's fair, and it kind of is my whole shtick, anyways. Like I'm already doing that with baklava, and so like people come over to my house, I love feeding them. So it's like, what's the big deal? You go buy somebody a sandwich, right? Like it's not that big of a deal. You could spend a couple dollars and just go, like literally go buy the sandwich and come back with it for them, kind of thing. Like if you're not in a big hurry to go somewhere, like. So I've been trying to be a little bit more aware of that as well, and it's not like you're fixing any long-term problems or anything, but it's just about like being kind to humans,
Sure.
Because I think this world is just, I think it needs a lot more of that. But at the same time, I'm not naive. I'm not like putting myself in dangerous situations, right? Like I said, I'm very big on like situational awareness. I don't walk around. I go for these long walks. I love going for walks when I'm in visiting cities or on vacation, but I never wear my headphones when I do that. I wear my headphones around the house and with noise cancel on, and I like that. And I like to chill. But like when you're out and about somewhere you don't know, you got to pay attention. Like when I was in Vegas for the Bitcoin conference, the one day I walked from the Strip. Well, it was like the afternoon. I got back late. It was like a 7-mile walk from the Strip to my Airbnb. And I was looking at like the Google Maps route, and I was like, okay. And I'm like, it has me going through this one neighborhood. I'm not too sure about this. And when I got close to it, I looked down those streets. I'm like, I'm not going that way. I'm like, sometimes you just have to trust your gut. It's like, I'm sticking to these main roads. It's a little bit longer. I don't care.
Yeah.
There's things like that, right? So it's like, you have to be smart about it, but
yeah. My dad used to say, keep your head on a swivel.
Yep.
Keep your head in the game.
Yep. You can still be nice to people. You can still be kind to people, and you can also still be smart about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I'll never, like, some people get really mad if you just go up to them and say like, "Hey, you want some food?" If somebody asks for help, all I'm saying is like, if somebody needs your help, maybe be a little bit more open to it. That's all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of maybe sandwiches and feeding people, here's a tweet. You ever heard Caitlin Long talking about paying in Bitcoin for bacon weave sandwiches at Porkfest 2012? And you were like, "Hi, it's me. I'm the bacon weave sandwich guy." So what's up with the bacon weave sandwiches?
Yeah, so Caitlin Long's been around a long time, right? Like in this space, and she's a real one. She's definitely like an OG. And everybody who was into Bitcoin, anybody who was anybody in the Bitcoin or in the freedom movement, was at the Porcupine Freedom Festival back in 2011, 2012, 2013. They still go. I mean, it's awesome. I went last year. I met my wife there for the first time in person in like 2012. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while. But But yeah, so like my whole shtick is like I love making sandwiches for people. I've always loved making. I love doing like weird, crazy creations, and like bacon weaves were like that whole like in the early 2010s. Like bacon weave stuff was like taking off. People were making like bacon weave pizzas and stuff like that. And in 2010, I started cooking at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, Porkfest, and it was we were doing like gyros. So it was like the pita bread and the jar and the meat and everything. And then 2011, I'm like, how do we make this bigger? Every year we did it. We cooked for 4 years, my buddy and I. And every year I'd be like, how do we make this bigger? How do we expand the menu? We added breakfast. We did all these things. But from 2010 to 2011, I came up with some creations, and the most popular was weaving bacon. So I would take 10 pieces of bacon, and I would make a 5x5 little blanket, tight knit blanket of bacon weaves. And we would do this ahead of time, where we would weave all this bacon. We had like a commercial oven in our house that we bought from some guy. That was like a $4,000 oven that I got for like $300. It was insane. This huge convection oven, and we would bake like dozens of these bacon weaves at a time, and just like pre-cook them ahead of time so they were good to go, and then you could just reheat them on the grill when it was time to serve. Just because it's like, okay, we're running this like a diner. We want to get food out quick. Boom, boom, boom. So we would have these little bacon weave blankets, and then I invented a sandwich called a train wreck. So it was like, hey, we're already selling euros. Let's make a sandwich. Everybody's like, keto's taking off with all these Liberty people. All these fat Liberty lovers were getting thin and getting girlfriends. It was awesome. And they were like, yeah, they just want to eat meat. They don't want to eat carbs. So it's like, okay, we're going to throw out the pita bread, and we're going to replace it with the bacon weave. And that was called the train wreck. So it was like all like this typical toppings on a gyro with a bacon weave instead of pita bread. And then people started doing a thing where it's like, hey, I still eat bread, but I want the bacon weave. So they would get the bacon weave sandwich wrapped in a pita, which was cleaner to eat. And it looked really good, because then it's like all that bacon grease would soak into the pita bread. And they were like, this is the best. So we would weave, so hundreds of pounds of bacon. And we were there all week from like a Monday till Sunday. We'd sell out by like Friday. Every year we're like, okay, we got to do more bacon. I've probably weaved more bacon than maybe anybody else in the world. I don't know. At least at one point in time, I was definitely the person who'd weaved more bacon than anybody. I guarantee you, because I did all the weaving, and my buddy would like take the trays of the weave bacon, and he would put them in the oven, drain the bacon grease, and we would save all the bacon grease. We had 5-pound buckets full, and we had a deep fryer, and we would fill the deep fryer with bacon grease, and we would deep fry French fries in bacon grease. You heard of Steak and Shake with their tallow fries. No. We did bacon grease fried fries, and those were insanely good. Like, it's crazy. Deep fried everything. We deep fried hot dogs in it, just whatever. Deep fried baklava. I would make funnel cake batter. Yeah, we went crazy with the menu. So that's where it's like, there was like with the whole bacon thing. That's really how, like, people who know me for baklava, they know me because of like the Bitcoin stuff. But the real ones who know me from even before like Bitcoin really took off, they know me as the bacon guy. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, that's really where I got my start. And like a lot of early Bitcoiners, like right here, you can see the Bitcoin roller coaster guy right behind me.
Yep.
Marcus Connor, the creator of that. I've known him since before Bitcoin. He's a New Hampshire guy who moved there for the Free State Project. Known him a long time. So yeah, he knew me as the bacon guy back then too, for sure. There's a lot of people like that. So like same with Caitlin Long. Like that's how she met me. But that tweet's about, I was at when we were at Nashville last year at the conference, the Bitcoin conference. I was standing talking to some people, and she was right next to me talking to some people. And I just overhear her saying like, they were talking about Porkfest, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember the early days. I was paying in Bitcoin to buy a bacon weave sandwich. And I'm like, she doesn't remember me. And I walked up to her. I was like, hey, Caitlin, it's me. I'm the guy who was feeding you the bacon weave sandwiches. And she was like, it just took her a minute. Because I looked so different. I had short hair back then, and I was pudgier and all this stuff. So it's like, I've gone through some changes physically. Yeah. So it was kind of funny. It was just funny that I'm standing there, and I had to tweet about it because it was such a cool moment. And I love that people remember that, because it's really, it's fun to be like, yeah, I got into Bitcoin. I worked at Bitcoin startups, and it was really neat to be able to do that. But like, I think I take the most pride in like that early work that I did when I was hustling, when I'd hit rock bottom in life, and I was like, okay, now where do we go from here? And I found creative ways to dig myself out. And that was through cooking, through cleaning, just doing what I already liked to do and I was already good at. You don't like I said, if you really want to get involved in something, you don't have to you don't have to change yourself to like fit a role that you don't want to make to that you don't necessarily want to do. You may be able to find something that you're really good at, find some way to incorporate that into, being where you want to go, like still doing what you love doing. And yeah, I mean, I was able to work customer service in Bitcoin in 2012. Like there's probably like 6 people in the world back then doing that, right? Like there weren't many customer service opportunities. There weren't really any opportunities to get paid in Bitcoin, not many anyways. So it's kind of cool that I was able to like make connections and do that. Like I really, to me, like that's like something that I'm really glad that I did that. I'm really glad that I went through I struggled to get to that point in my life, and I stuck with that. I didn't just say like, I'm just gonna go work some crappy job. I would have got paid more, but I wouldn't have been happy.
Like I wish when I go to like amusement park or anywhere, even if it's fast food, I wish the food was always prepared by someone as passionate about making food as you are. You would think with the numbers of people we have in this country, we would somehow get there. There are a lot of people working fast food who just don't care about the end product. I feel like, it's a shame. I just wish there was dope food everywhere. Caitlin Long said reconnecting with you at Bitcoin 2024 was one of her favorite experiences in Nashville. But talking about proof of work and sort of like loving what that brings. I mean, let's go back to this tweet. Scrubbing toilets for Bitcoin is what I'll look back on with fondness as I draw my final breath. Forget baklava or the years spent in the industry, working in the industry. It's the toilets. Stay humble.
Yeah, the scrubbing toilets is like, to me, it's like that's kind of like where Mandrik was born. Like my whole because Mandrik's not my real name. Like we had talked about this before. Like how my name's George. Okay, nobody calls me George. I mean, people call me George, like people who know me a long time. But like, I don't really like it. I've had nicknames my whole life. I have a Greek family. If you, including my sister and I, there's like 30 of us first cousins. Like I have a ton of aunts and uncles, a ton of cousins. I didn't have friends growing up. I had cousins. And what do Greeks do? Well, they name their kids after their dad or something. Their sons after their fathers. Well, both of my grandpas were George, and I have 3 other first cousins with the same first and last name. There's like so many cousins of mine. There's like 7 of us named George. So it's like everybody had nicknames. Most of my life, I was G-E-E. That's what everybody called me. And I was like the baby cousin for the longest time. So yeah, I was G from like 1981 till whatever. Like everybody called me G. And I still have friends that call me G. And they're grandfathered in. It's fine. But I always like nicknames, and I've been a gamer all my life. And when I started playing EverQuest in 1999, it was like one of the first really big, massive multiplayer online games. Ultima Online came before that, and that was pretty big too. But like EverQuest, like redefined the whole genre. I made a character. I named it just some random name, Mandrik, and it just stuck. It just became, this is like internet 1999. I just started using that on forums in those days, everything, and it just like, you have like your internet persona that just became mine. And I kind of like it. It's just like my own unique name. So it's like Mandrik was like, may have been like started back there. Like I had that name for a long time and people online knew me as that. But like the character Mandrik, the baklava guy, I think a lot of that, it started when I decided to like do the cleaning, do the cooking and like throw myself into like just these weird jobs. But like, I think the reason I take a lot of pride in that is because it's simple work. Nobody who wants to scrub toilets. Like I don't want to scrub toilets. I just scrubbed toilets yesterday. I was cleaning the toilets in my house. Nobody paid me for it. It's my house now. I got to clean my toilets. But like it's a thing we have to do, right? And it's a thing that needed to get done for a client of mine, and she was willing to pay me in Bitcoin. So I cleaned her toilets. And it wasn't just her toilets, of course. I cleaned the entire house. She's also someone who I did personal chef work for, and she was a close friend. So like it was kind of cool, and she would pay me in Bitcoin. And it wasn't the only house that there were other houses I cleaned, and other people who pay me in Bitcoin. So to me, it's like, yeah, I take a little bit of pride in that because it's just like a job that anybody could have done back then. Anybody could have been cleaning toilets. Maybe, like if you really wanted to get paid in Bitcoin, maybe you could have figured it out. Maybe you'd have to move to New Hampshire, but like, or you could have done that and I guess converted it to Bitcoin. But to me, it's not the same as like getting actually paid in Bitcoin. Like I wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. So I think like the fact that I was willing to do that and like do like a humiliating task like cleaning I mean, some people would see it as that. I don't really look at it as that. I look at it as like, hey, this person needs work done. They don't want to do it. They're trying to maximize their time so they can do what they're good at. They can make money doing what they're good at and hire other people to do these things that they just don't want to do. And then they could pay them in this new money that is taking off. That's like, at the time was like worth $5 or $6, and it was really neat. And it's like, because it's like early Bitcoiners, it's like, okay, I got Bitcoin now. What can I do with it? They want to be able to spend it. That was the thing. HODL wasn't a meme back then. So it's like, yeah, I want to get Bitcoin, but I also want to use it. So that was cool. Like she was able to use Bitcoin that she was earning, because she was also earning Bitcoin doing stuff. And she was able to use that to pay for things that she didn't want to do. And it's like, that sounds pretty awesome to me. It just so happened to be that I was cooking and cleaning, and that involved cleaning toilets as well. So yeah, that's something that, I think that's, like I said, I was outside my comfort zone, and I took a risk doing something that I didn't know what was going to happen long term. I didn't have any job security. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I just did it anyways. And I think that I think is like the main thing. Like, I think it's especially when you're younger. I was in my 30s and I already had kids, so it was like a little riskier. But like, I think when you're younger, that's when you take risks for sure. And that's what I tell my kids, because now that they're living on their own and it's like, this is when you want to take risks. Don't be, if you fail, whatever, it's okay. Like, that's how we learn, and that's how we better ourselves. Like, and I'd never done that at any point in my life before. I always played it safe. So to me, like, cleaning toilets is like, doesn't sound like it, but it was like a way to not play it safe, doing something like that instead of just taking a normal job.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this a lot in terms of timelines. You could always have timelines in front of you, but especially, let's say you have more time to reflect on the ones that were before you. So you're much younger, you're doing this grunt work. And I always think about, like, I put myself back in that position. So a lot of us have done grunt work. I still do grunt work. Sometimes we don't get paid, but like earlier on, you're like, I'm doing this grunt work. Yeah. You could frame it as, this person needs this to get done. They don't want to spend their time on it. I could do this. But there's a moment where you're like, and it's one timeline, it's going to work out, right? Like, I don't know if that means I'm going to scrub toilets and I'm going to build a scrubbing toilet business and hire other people, and I'm just going to franchise this thing, or I'm going to
invent a new toilet brush that just blows all the other ones away.
I'll come up with the new toilet brush, but my work is it's going to pan out for me in some way. Or there's that moment where you're like, man, I'm doing this grunt work. Some would find this humiliating, and maybe I don't get on a good timeline, and I'm still the guy scrubbing toilets, and I don't even have a scrubbing toilets brush that I invented, or I'm not hiring other people to do it, or the thing I converted my money into is not working out the way I hoped, and do you ever reflect on that? Like,
yeah. I think the Japanese have a good outlook on work. It's like, you should take pride in, if you're going to do something, take pride in it, give it your all. Just do it, like that. I like that way of thinking, where it's like, if anything that you're going to do, you should just try to do it as the best you can, whether that's cleaning toilets or, building a startup, something. Just like, don't half-ass anything. I only have 2 speeds. It's 0 and 100. And that's just how I operate. And anytime I've ever half-assed something, I've been so disappointed with it. Like, and I think that's where, like, things like working a dead end job, it's just the worst. Because when I put in, like, even till my last day there, I always worked really hard. Like, I always was there. I never missed days of work. And so much of work is just showing up. I saw that firsthand. Like, so many people who get fired because they just don't show up enough times. And it's like, okay, you don't have a job anymore. And to me, it's like, that's like the dumbest thing. Like, how do you just not show up? If you don't want to do a job, just quit. Go do something else. But so I think that to me that's probably like the growing up with Greeks in a restaurant mentality, where it's like, you give it your all. Like, you work your ass off. You put that in, it doesn't matter if it's something you don't like doing, especially, like, you're going to do a lot of that, especially when you're younger. And hey, if you got to start all over in your 30s, so what? Then you do it. You do what you got to do. If I went back to 0 tomorrow, I'll go do whatever crappy job I got to do. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll make ends meet. Like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that's where, like, having too much success can be a bad thing. You get too comfortable and you get lazy, and like, you got to keep challenging yourself. You got to find different ways to challenge yourself.
Yeah. I want to dig a little bit more into yesteryear here. You had a great tweet. This is in 2012. This only has 14 likes. One of them is mine from like yesterday. People should go back and check this one out.
2012 tweet. I have no idea.
You can now buy George's famous baklava with Bitcoins when you order at bitmit.net.
Bitmit.net was it? Or Bitmit?
Yeah, this is legendary. Here's the tweet right here.
Oh man, Bitmit.
Framed. People should go back and revisit that one. I want to read another one here. This one's more recent, but it's going back to what happened. College dropout, can't code, but worked my way into a Bitcoin customer service job by 2012. All it took was connections. The baklava and the food stand at Porkfest. I met everyone that way. They knew me, saw how I worked, and trusted me. No resumes. You just got to want it. Well, talking about wanting it, I mean, I don't know how much you wanted this, but I mean, how much did you have to deal with people losing Bitcoin in 2012, 2013, 2014? And what could you do for them?
A lot of that was, those were like the later years, like working at Blockchain.info. A lot of people don't know what they are anymore. They're Blockchain.com is completely different, like whatever they are now. Very different from what they were in the early days. In the early days, it was a block explorer. This guy, Ben Reeves, created. You could go back and find his posts on bitcointalk.org. Like he built the first like really good block explorer that worked, and everybody used it for many years. It was the block explorer. Like you look at mempool.spaces now, you talk to Wiz, he built that in his mind. Like mempool.space is what blockchain.info in his mind should be, would have been today in another timeline. Like he loved blockchain.info and he built it. You know, like I'm not saying he just like when him and the team at Mempool made Mempool space, they were inspired by the OG blockchain.info back in the day. So like I had that opportunity to work there because I knew Roger Ver. Roger was the first person he's the one who bought my baklava the first time I sold it for Bitcoin. He paid 14 Bitcoin for a tray in 2011. That was Roger. We were friends for a long time, right up to the block size wars, more or less. But I knew Roger when BitInstant shut down. Roger reached out to Charlie Shrem, who was running it at the time, you know, and was like, "Hey, I need a customer service guy for blockchain.info. Who would you recommend that was on your team?" And Charlie said like, "Oh, you should talk to Mandrik." And Roger already knew me, so Roger DM'd me. I got the job through a DM on Facebook. Okay, that's how I got the job at blockchain.info, and so yeah, I worked there, but it was a non-custodial web wallet, which at the time was pretty cool. Like it was cool to have a web wallet. Like it wasn't the most secure. There was no hardware wallets back then. The best way to secure your funds in those days was like paper wallets that you printed out that had encrypted private keys, and it was just this convoluted. It was awful. Hardware wallets changed. That's a whole other story, but hardware wallets really changed the way people hold Bitcoin long term. But yeah, so like it was a web wallet. So like think of it as like you would create a wallet with a password, and then you'd make like this little vault that we had no access to. We didn't know what your password was, whatever. Everything's encrypted on the browser, and then you send the encrypted stuff to us and we store it. So we had like a big vault with your little vault inside of it. Like we could get inside the big vault, but like we couldn't access your little vault inside. So as you can imagine, a lot of people lost their passwords and they didn't save backups. And then they'd be like, "Hey, I don't have my password and I don't have my backup. How do I get my funds?" And it's like, that's the thing. You don't. They're gone forever. And it really sucks. And I was a guy who, for the longest time, I was the only one answering support tickets. And I've seen so many, like I've talked about this before. I have like PTSD at times, like not so much anymore. It's been a long time since I've dealt with it. But when I still look back and I'm just like, I still feel awful at like how many people lost Bitcoin through wallets like that, and how like we could have done things better to make people aware. But like at the end of the day, early Bitcoin sucked, man. Anyone who thinks holding was easy is just so delusional, because there were a million ways to lose your funds, and that was one of them. And it sucked, man. And a lot of people lost a lot of Bitcoin. I was able to help some people through some ways that like they had some info and we tried some stuff. Like there wasn't any like brute forcing or anything, but there was like some things that I could do if they had some information. But it was like, it was a stretch, you know, like it was really hard. Most of the times people just lost their funds. But yeah, there were some stories where it's like, oh, there was a guy who I helped. He had the password, but he didn't have the wallet itself. Like it was like this identifier. It was just like this weird string of letters and numbers, and he didn't know what his was. And it took like weeks, but we finally figured out what it was. And then he got his wallet, and he was like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, and he didn't have to tell. I had no idea how much Bitcoin it was, but he did tell me. He was like, "Thanks, man. I had like 2,500 Bitcoin in this wallet." And I'm like, this is like when Bitcoin was like $100 or something. And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, it's a lot of
And
money.
he's like, "Thanks so much, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Like that's crazy. So like people were, and I'm like, "Why are you storing that much in a web wallet?"
Mhm.
Like that was a whole other thing, but that's how people were, man. People would do that. Like they would just store like all their net worth on a web wallet. That was early Bitcoin days, man.
Man, people think it's hard to hodl now. Let's get into it a little bit. You wrote, the hardest part of hodling, or the hardest part of holding Bitcoin isn't dealing with volatility. It's the boring times. We all know people like this. They FOMO in when the price is surging, hold during a retrace, and eventually get bored by the sideways price. This is the pain I often speak of. I also went on to write another tweet. The post Mt. Gox bear market was the worst of all Bitcoin bear markets, and it's not even close. I never saw so many demoralized people walk away from Bitcoin, many for good. Some eventually came back. It was brutal.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was. Yeah, the thing with people don't realize it now because Mt. Gox in hindsight doesn't seem that big, and they weren't compared to like exchanges now. And there's so many exchanges, but like back then, when Mt. Gox went down, like Bitcoin price action kind of just stopped. Because all the other exchanges, everything went off of Mt. Gox. Yeah, there was Bitstamp. Yeah, there was Coinbase at the time, but they were all smaller players. Even Kraken and so like. Of course, there was also what was the Russian one that got shut down? Oh my god, I'm totally blanking. Where the troll box started, BTCE. There was all these there was all these sites, but like Gox was the site to buy. Like that was where everything happened, and that was the price you went off of. When you went off the price of Bitcoin, you went off the Mt. Gox price. So when they imploded, and we all knew it was going to happen, everybody saw the writing on the wall. Maybe some people didn't want to believe it, but like. It was inevitable. So when that imploded, it didn't feel like Bitcoin was dead, but it felt like we could possibly reach a point of like, we're never going to get back to where we were. And Bitcoin's just going to exist, but like on a smaller scale. And it's just, again, not that Bitcoin failed, but like you kind of got these vibes where it's just like, well, it just felt like the party was over, and it sucked. And I feel like if I wasn't working at a startup at the time, with my wife as well, we're earning our income in Bitcoin, and just being able to focus, like we were still focused 24/7 on Bitcoin, working in the industry, just doing our job, still doing what we were doing. I probably would have been demoralized. Having somebody there in person to talk to, because my wife, she was just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. She's like, yeah, like Gox thing sucks. But in a lot of ways, like she would sit there and watch the price all the time. She's just like, yeah, she's a Bitcoiner. She loves Bitcoin, but like she wasn't as like emotional about it, which was good. Because I'm usually not, she's usually more emotional about stuff. But like when it comes to Bitcoin, and I'm sure you can understand, like it can be emotional, right? Like big time. The highs and the lows, man, you feel them. You feel those highs and you feel those lows. Even all these years later, I still do. Maybe it's not as strong of a feeling. But back then, man, it was rough. And watching the price dump, like Gox goes down, it dumps like from $1,000, then it's down to $800, and then we just spent like 6 months at like $200 or something in 2015, and it reached the point where I was like, okay, Bitcoin's $200 forever. It's fine. We'll have $200 Bitcoin for the rest. Whatever. I'm gonna get paid in Bitcoin. It's $200. That's just how it is. And then that's when the price, when you get to that point, you're like, okay, fine, it's $200. It's like the gods are watching and are like, okay, now the number goes up. Like you've reached the point, like now you've reached understanding. Yeah, now now that you're comfortable, we're gonna make you uncomfortable. And price going up can be uncomfortable too. It's definitely a lot of times it can be more uncomfortable than when it goes down.
Yeah,
in a weird way. And I think if you've been in it long enough, you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, like it's hard, man. And like I said, I saw people. There's people I worked with at the company who left. And they went on to other jobs in other tech industry. I saw some of them come back in other Bitcoin jobs. some of them never did. Some I just never saw again. And I feel like people who held through that and worked through it, it's like a different. It was the first really rough bear market. Like you could say 2012 was a bear market because it was. Bitcoin had like skyrocketed in 2011 from like pennies, early 2011 from pennies to like $30 some or whatever, and then it crashed. And that crash is when I got in. So I got in at a bear market. I got in at $5. Like that was to me, like I loved bear markets. Bear markets were I was kind of comfortable in the bear market because that's what I knew. Like 2012, the price was $5 for so long. I remember the Porkfest happened 2012. We accept Bitcoin. Price is $5 all week. People are doing transactions or whatever. And then I come home and then like a week later it goes to $7. I'm like, oh my God, all this Bitcoin I made that was $5. It's $7 now. That's great because I got a lot of bills to pay. So it was kind of nice. Because again, I had to sell Bitcoin to pay for like I had expenses. I didn't have any money.
Running a business.
Running a business. I got kids. Like, come on.
Right.
Like it's crazy. So like, yeah, that was a bear market, but to me, it was never as painful as like the whole Gox thing because we saw the price run up from like the start of 2013 from like $20-$30 to like hundreds of dollars, and it crossed $1,000 at the end of the year, and then Gox implodes in early 2014, and it was just so demoralizing. After that, just like insane. 2013 was insane roller coaster. We had those two big spikes, one in April, and then like it dumps, and then it's like the huge one after the Silk Road gets shut down in the fall, winter. It just breaks $1,000 Bitcoin after we'd broken $100. And like mid 2013, all the articles like Bitcoin crosses $1 billion market cap. Like 1 billion. It was crazy. We're like, oh my God, it's $1 billion. Now it's like you take a nap and it's like $1 billion plus or minus.
It's like evaporation.
Yeah.
Dan, I forget his last name, but he goes by Robust Us on Twitter. Said, I still say winter 2011 bear was the worst because there was no prior for a deep bear, then recovery, and zero mind share for BTC outside of a bunch of anons on Bitcoin Talk.
Yeah.
You went on to say that was my entry into Bitcoin. I love that it was $5 for so long.
Yeah. The volatility is scary.
I want to read a few more.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I do really empathize what you're saying. It's like scary when it goes up. You feel like, is this the world ripping apart? Is this the actual volatility in the world? Is this my last chance to stack sats? When it's going down, if you have conviction, it's exciting in some ways because you have more time. Your work is worth more in real hard money terms. It's more opportunity for the future. You wrote, unless you started stacking in 2009/2010, take Bitcoin OG out of your profile. It's cringe as fuck. I agree. I finally feel like I've been in Bitcoin a long time. I might think of myself as a long-time Bitcoiner now. And I don't think of myself as a Bitcoiner. I don't like labels. But I finally feel like I've been around a long time, but I'm not an OG. I get what you're saying there. But something you also said that was really interesting. You said most of us have been involved in Bitcoin longer than Satoshi Nakamoto. Crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about. To me, OG is like this, like you were in on the ground floor. Like, and that's like the 2009, 2010 crew in my mind. But the OGs were always the people that came before you, right?
Yeah.
That's I think that's just like a general thing. Cause like people like, and like, people might look back on generation and be like, oh man, these rappers they're the OGs, right? And then be like, but those rappers would be like, no, the OGs were the guys, the generation that's like, we're not the OG. Like, yeah, it goes back further than that. So I get it. Like, and if somebody calls me an OG, I'm not gonna sit there and correct. It's like, it's fine. It's a term of it. It's like, it's an endearing term, and it's nice, but I would never call myself that. To me, like, I don't consider myself an OG because I just think of people who got in before there was price discovery, like, and I'm not just talking about Hal Finney. Of course, Hal Finney is like, he's not even an OG. He's just like, he's Hal Finney, right? Like he transcends OG, right? Like him and Satoshi, they're like on a whole other level. But there's so many people who did so many anons that are the real OGs. And to me, it's like, that's who I think of, but I can understand why somebody could consider somebody, could look at somebody who's been into Bitcoin longer than them and be like, oh yeah, that guy's an OG. Like he was around for this and that and whatever. So I get it. But like calling yourself an OG, if you were back in those days, a Bitcoiner, you can call yourself an OG. I ain't gonna say shit. Like you earned it, OGs
don't need to call themselves OGs though.
Yeah.
They just are.
They don't. Like Marshall Long, Oh, his Twitter handle is OG Bitcoin miner or something like that. That dude was mining Bitcoin in 2010. Okay, if you're mining Bitcoin in 2010, yeah, maybe it still sounds a little like really you're gonna say OG, but you know what? You earned it.
But you were around in the wild, wild west of Bitcoin. BitInstant, Charlie Shrem, Vitalik, Roger Ver. Some have gone off the plantation. You know, I don't think we need to kind of talk about maybe those individuals. I would like to maybe hear a little bit about Vitalik, maybe.
I didn't really know him. I only interacted with him a couple times.
What was your impression, though, of him? And did you have an impression or a takeaway?
Just this weird autistic kid, like so many of us. I don't know. Like he seemed interesting in some ways. Like honestly, when I heard about Ethereum, like I'm not super duper technical, and I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. Because hey, look, man, I moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. I was looking for freedom in my lifetime. I was always a gold and silver bug. So alternative currencies, I was there for it. I was taking Bitcoin, but yeah, I was taking gold. I was taking silver. There was other alternative currencies. It wasn't just Bitcoin. Eventually, it became just Bitcoin. But there was a point where I'm like, hey, why wouldn't other cryptocurrencies? Why shouldn't we try them out? But it wasn't like the pump and dump ICO, whatever. It was just like, why shouldn't I look into these other things? You know, Bitcoin's cool, but like maybe Litecoin, we do need the silver to Bitcoin's gold, right? Like, I don't know. It sounds plausible. So it makes kind of some sense. But then the more you dig into it, the more you're just like, oh, this is all bullshit. Like this is just people trying to make money. It's all pump and dump crap, whatever. But you learn that with time, right? Like I did dabble with shitcoins for a little bit. I thought Ethereum was kind of interesting, the idea of it, like on paper. But like when I saw like the DAO hack and then they rolled back, I was like, I'm out. Like that was like, okay, fuck Ethereum, right? Like that was it. And that was the last time I ever held Ethereum. I was like, no, okay, I'm out. That to me is like, that's, yeah.
I think shitcoining is a natural evolution to learning about Bitcoin. I think, you know, I didn't understand cryptography, so I was here for the technology, for the game.
Who does?
You know, I thought blockchain was the secret sauce at first. It took time to figure that out. Things like the DAO helped figure that out. Even I was not around for the DAO hack, but like I learned about it early on when I was trying to figure out what Ethereum was, and things like that were road marks and red flags. Mm-hmm. You have great takes. Sometimes just kind of vibing your way to kind of, you know, feeling things out. But I want to read some of these. These I wouldn't really say are hot takes, but I want to read some of these tweets. I'll riff through a few of them, and then we'll get into some more.
Sure.
Why is Bitcoin dumping? Because fuck you. That's why. Oh, you thought this was going to be easy because of your favorite influencer promised the moon. He's as much of a clueless autistic retard as you are. It's Max Payne to 1 million. You know, it's interesting kind of hearing that from you, especially the Max Payne to 1 million. You know what kind of the pain has been like to get to 100K and 10K and 1,000 and etc. You got this other one. Not phased by Bitcoin consolidating in the $90,000 to $100,000 range. Congratulations. This probably isn't your first time. It's not getting easier. You're just building a tolerance to the insanity.
Yeah.
You also wrote, are you starting to understand why not every Bitcoin OG is filthy rich? Holding is extraordinarily painful at times. One anecdote I always kind of bring up is like Pierre Richard. I don't know if we'd call him an OG, but I think
he's been around.
And for me, he's someone who kind of, with the ideas he kind of communicated, because I don't like to look up to people, but he kind of lit a path for me. He was one of those people. And he even mentioned that, you know, Bitcoin OGs have a lot less Bitcoin than you would think. And one anecdote he gave from his life is like coming out of college, he paid off student loans, even kind of paid extra payments instead of buying Bitcoin. It seemed like the smart, prudent thing to do, you know. You also wrote, I jokingly told my wife she's one of the first 1,000 women in Bitcoin, class of 2012. Worked at a Bitcoin startup, 2013 to 2012, 2013 to 2020. So probably in the top 100 of women to do that. She rolled her eyes. She's too base to give a shit about the women in Bitcoin angle.
Yeah, that's my wife for sure.
I think that's great.
I love that tweet, man. It's so funny because I'm just picturing someone who obviously I know my wife. It's great. She really doesn't give a fuck about any of that stuff, and it's kind of cool. But like, not to throw shade at people who do. That's fine. But like, she doesn't do these things like, oh, I'm a woman. She's just another nerd. You know, another one of the autistic nerds who's out there. I mean, I met her in the Free Talk Live, which is like a Liberty, or that's where so that's where Roger Ver first heard about Bitcoin. Actually, they had Gavin Andreessen on in April of 2011, and Roger heard about Bitcoin and loaded up. He was already wealthy and whatever. So, but yeah, I met her in the IRC, their chat room. So yeah, she's a nerd and she's a Bitcoiner. So it's kind of cool. Like I feel super lucky. And she really is like, but she would never want to do a show or talk. Like she'd talk about it in person with somebody, sure, but she's just like, it's just not her. She's obviously she takes pride in the work she did and all that, but like that's not the fact that she's a woman who did that. That's irrelevant, and that's cool. Like that's why I love her. You know, like I love that about her.
In some ways, it's maybe good to keep Bitcoin in a proper place in our lives as well.
Yeah, she keeps me in check with a lot of that stuff. That first tweet that you read about the why is Bitcoin dumping? Because fuck you. That's why. You know, I think we all have like a little bit of that American HODL spirit in us, you know, and sometimes it just comes out in ways. And I feel like that was one of those where it's like, sometimes you just want to let yell. It's like, yeah, fuck. It's like, you know what? It's happening because fuck you. Like that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. It really is. It just, sometimes it does not go the way you think it's going to go. And you just got to deal with it, and it's gonna dump. I think that was like earlier this year, like it hit a new all-time high in like March or something, and then it just like was dumping because people think like, oh, it's going up, the cycles are over, it's never gonna drop below this amount again. It's like, okay,
right,
here it goes. You know?
It's like Bitcoin, it's fuck you money, but it kind of reminds me of Michael Rappaport's kind of slogan, you fuck you, and yep. I always debate whether he's saying you fuck you or you fuck you. And kind of like it's very Bitcoin like. I'm going to riff through a few more here. I'm living my life assuming Bitcoin is going to $1 trillion in the next 50 years. I don't have the patience for dollar cost averaging. There's only one conclusion I've come to after watching the Bitcoin price for 13 years. No one has any idea what the hell is going on. Max Kaiser calls himself an oracle. I'm a random pleb who said we dropped to 85K. Why was I right? Lucky guess. That's it. Stop listening to these people. They are just as clueless as the rest of us on short-term market movements. My strategy is to think of the dumbest shit and assume it will happen. 60% of the time, it works every time. And then I want to read a little bit longer one. You want to get lucky here? Here's the plan. Buy Bitcoin. Live below your means. Do nothing. Sounds easy, right? It's not. In fact, it is literally the hardest thing to do in Bitcoin. Why? Temptation, FOMO, greed. It's what drives people to gamble, be it on sports or meme coins. Great example. I have this Caucasus round.
Casacious.
Contains one entire Bitcoin on it. Earned it selling a gyro or a hero for $5 back when I was broke because rich people weren't slinging sandwiches for Bitcoin in 2011. Now it's a family heirloom, locked up in a secure off-site location. Can you imagine the challenge of holding something that has gone up over 21,000 times in only 13 years? I should have sold this thing 1,000 times in the past. No one would have blamed me, but I didn't. I saw something with sentimental, historical, and financial value. I chose to buy less things instead of selling this little brass token. Now, do you believe for a second that the dollar equivalent in meme coins purchased today will have any value in the next 13 years? Hell, the next 13 months? You already know the answer. You're just too greedy to pay attention. I won't stop you from gambling, but stop asking me if you should buy into the next get-rich-quick scam. Stop telling me how lucky I got. You can either do nothing like I did or have nothing when you go broke chasing the dopamine hits. Our great-great-grandchildren will remember only one of us.
Yeah, that one... that one's relevant today with all these like corporations buying Bitcoin, I think.
Yep.
I mean, it's not the same as meme coins, but I'm just when the latest way to like make more money on your Bitcoin hits, I'm always just like, we'll see in 5 years. That's kind of my approach to it.
It feels as close to shitcoining as I've ever seen. It's got all the same vibes. I'm not going to say that there's nothing here in this financial wizardry. Yeah. But it's got all the same markers. So
it's people are gaming a system, right?
They're gaming a system. It's arbitrage. It's rent seeking. There might be something to trapped capital, but it really seems like retail is the thing chasing the tail here, and it's coming down to momentum, marketing, communications, team, who's on the team, strategy, what's their white paper on their way they're going to accumulate? Do they get the message out well? Are they transparent? Are they small cap or large cap? But there's a lot of people I've talked to who are really smart at running the numbers, getting involved in this stuff. Maybe there's something there, but it's got all the earmarkers.
Yeah. It's just, to me, like, why am I into Bitcoin? If you would have been like talking to me about this stuff a decade ago, I'd have been like, well, I mean, I'd had the same reaction then that I do now. It's like, this is completely uninteresting to me. This is not why I got into Bitcoin. I didn't get Bitcoin to just find ways to make more money. Like, we all need money. I get it. I'm not knocking that. Like, that's like, people need to make profits. That's cool. I get it. I get all that. But like, I just want to do things that like I find interesting, and I want to be involved in things that are fun and or not just like that to me are like what I'm passionate about, right? And there's nothing at all about any of this that I find interesting whatsoever. It's just like another way to like, hey, how can we game a system to make more money? It's like, okay, I don't know. It's just like that's not why I got into Bitcoin. So like, hey, maybe people will make more money than if they just bought and held Bitcoin. To me, it's like just it's the simplest, not easiest, but the simplest thing is just buy Bitcoin and hold. The do nothing. Of course, doing nothing is doing everything, right? You have to do a lot to do nothing in that situation. But I just don't get it. It's just not for me. And I hope it works out for people. I hope nobody gets wrecked. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say. And you know what? And if it works out and they're phenomenally successful, I'm going to be phenomenally successful too because I'm holding Bitcoin. Like I have nothing to lose by just sticking to Bitcoin, self-custody, not playing these weird games to try to like make more money. Like I'm just not motivated in that way, and it's just not. That's not what inspires me to hold Bitcoin. It's just not.
You get none of the qualities of Bitcoin. You're asking other Bitcoiners to babysit your Bitcoin for you.
Yeah.
You're last in line as a shareholder. So, and I think if these things are built to outperform Bitcoin, which is obviously what people are chasing, because and I don't know why people are chasing to get better returns than Bitcoin, but
best return ever in the history, but okay. Yeah.
And these things won't outperform over a long period of times. And the way I'd emphasize that is if it's built to outperform Bitcoin on the way up, it's going to be built to outperform Bitcoin on the way down. And I think it's going to be easier to hodl real Bitcoin in self-custody in a downturn than it will be these other things that you have to then add all this element of who's on the team and blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah.
I don't think we need to be, I want to get into some Mandrik stuff here, but I love your take on that. But I want to read this.
We keep talking about it, I'll just fall asleep. Man. That's how I feel.
I know, right? So let's get back. Let's get a little bit more life to this. So I want to read this. I want to elaborate on the idea that Bitcoin holders got lucky. I hear it every bull market, and I don't think the people saying it truly understand what it means to hodl. From the outside, it might look like we stumbled into the right thing at the right time and just coasted to where we are. But the truth is very different. When I got into Bitcoin, most people either didn't know what it was or thought it was a joke. I worked in the industry for 5 years until 2018, earning and spending in Bitcoin because I believed in its potential, not because it was easy. During that time, I lived through the price crashes of 50%, 70%, even 90%. No one said I was lucky during those times. The ones who cared asked if I was going to be okay. I've seen my net worth skyrocket 1 year and plummet the next, sometimes in weeks. I've endured extended bear markets where the price barely moved, and optimism was hard to come by. I've sat through years of sideways markets where it felt like progress was at a standstill and doubt crept in constantly. To stay all in through that takes more than luck. It takes conviction, because when the price is crashing and everyone is saying Bitcoin is dead, you have to believe in what you're doing enough to keep going. It takes resilience, because the psychological toll of watching everything you've built shrink overnight isn't easy to bear. It takes patience, because nothing about Bitcoin's growth is smooth or predictable. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Most importantly, it takes a deep understanding of why you're there in the first place. Being motivated by personal freedom, not fiat gains. Luck might help someone make a quick buck, but it doesn't keep you invested during the dark days when it feels like the world is against you. Those years of volatility weren't easy, but they're also what gave me the perspective, discipline, and belief to stay the course. So no, it wasn't just luck. It was a choice made again and again through the highs and the lows. It's a choice Bitcoiners continue to make each day. And when you look at the other options, you realize there's no better choice. Bitcoin is the best hope for our future. But sure, we got lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the whole you got lucky thing. Like it can be aggravating. I think when I first would hear that, it was like a triggering thing. Now it's like, what? I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. But it really is like, especially when you're in it early on, like right now, like with HODLing, I think if you're in the Bitcoin community and you're surrounded by other Bitcoiners, dealing with bear markets is a lot easier because you got your little circle of cope friends, and you could cope together, and it's great and it's awesome. But there's still plenty of people who, when the next bear market hits, they're not going to have that. And it's when you're alone in that and you don't have like that social circle to help you deal with the downswings, it's really tough. And I get it. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, whatever the price is, it's whatever. 1 Bitcoin's 1 Bitcoin. But like the reality is, when the price drops and the market reacts to that, things are, like it's not that Bitcoin isn't working. I mean, you're still finding blocks every 10 minutes. That's really what keeps, that's Bitcoin's still going. But like price does have an impact. Whether you're watching it or not, it's having an impact on the whole ecosystem. It's like it is a marker of health in some ways. It's not like the marker of health, but it is a marker. Like, so when the price is in a downswing, yeah, you can cope and be like, yeah, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, everything's gonna be fine, blah blah blah. But like, I saw firsthand what happens when the price went down at startups. They start laying people off. A lot of people I've seen come and go from that. Like, people just, because they're just like, hey, we just can't afford it. And it's like, that sucks. And those are people who are working in the space and providing services at companies or whatever, and that has an impact on the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. So there's definitely, the price isn't everything, but it certainly is something. So yeah, it is hard, like dealing with those things. And when the price is going up and somebody's like, oh, you just got lucky, it's kind of insulting in a lot of ways. But they don't know. They don't understand. They just don't understand, because what we've gone through with Bitcoin, what Bitcoin has gone through since its start is like, it's like the market of something over the course of like hundreds of years, but like condensed into like less than 15 or not more than 15 now, I guess. But like, in this under 20 years time frame, just like really like hundreds of years of market action, and just it's nuts when you watch that price just skyrocket and then just dump. Like it's been an insane ride. And yeah, and if it was so easy, everybody would be rich. Plenty of OGs would be so beyond wealthy, but so many people who got in that just weren't able to hold, whether it was like you said, Pierre Richard paying off student loan debts, or maybe somebody had some huge medical problem. I don't know, or somebody died or something. Right? There's a tons of things, or you lost your funds, or you got stolen. There's a million ways you could have lost your funds. So like, to have like navigated all of those things and to remain healthy and not make any stupid mistakes, because it doesn't matter how smart you are, you can have, things can happen. Yeah, it's a lot more than luck, man. And to have that conviction and everything, and it's a crazy journey. And of course, the longer you're there, you're going to reach a point where you're going to be like, nobody who's been around that long has as much as they once had, right? Like in Bitcoin. And part of that journey is just being okay with that. I think if you're just, at least for me, like, I don't want to just keep chasing a number and then a higher number and an even higher number. Like, I think it's good to just be happy with what you have. I learned this lesson when I had no money and I kind of hit rock bottom. And it's like, just be happy with what you have. And then if you end up having a little bit more one day, like, that's really cool too. But like, just chasing stuff is just like the most ungratifying thing. So I think when you're a parent, it helps a lot too. Because when you have kids and you have that family and you have that core, you're not like chasing wealth or whatever. And I can also see why, like, I'm not a religious person, but like, I have a lot of respect for people who are. And I think when they have like religion in their life as like their core belief, that's like, they're not necessarily chasing wealth. They have like, they have like this like foundation, and that's part of their life. And that to them is like, that the religion and family is like more important than chasing some dollar figure. I can see that. I can respect that, like, for sure. Yeah. Because if you're you're always worshiping something, right? There's always something at your center that like is like your core, you're part of your core being. And to me, it's like, I think things like the ideas of liberty, freedom, I think that's a good, like good base, good foundation, allowing people, encouraging freedom, supporting freedom and allowing people to live free so that you can live free as well. Like those ideas, even if in practice it's really hard to have, especially in this world, but it's a good foundation to still have. Being kind to people, things like that, I think that's important. Otherwise it's things like beauty or money or all that stereotypical, it's like that's the most unfulfilling thing, right?
Yeah. So I want to talk about family. I only have 3 more questions for you.
Sure.
So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read a few of your tweets. They're a little bit longer each. My dad ran a diner for 35 plus years, and my mom spent 30 plus years working an administrative job at a hospital. I grew up middle class, a child of Greek immigrants. My dad retired in 2015, my mom in 2019. In 2013, I gave my mom some Bitcoin for money that I owed her. She said she'd hold. I made sure she would by keeping custody of it. They started DCAing small amounts of Bitcoin in 2016 and never stopped. I have years worth of texts from my mom proudly proclaiming she bought the dip. The few sats they managed to save outperformed my mom's 401k by miles. Now they live where they always wanted to and just built an extension on their modest home. They wanted more room for when their grandkids visit. It couldn't have happened without Bitcoin. Thank you, Satoshi. You go on to write another tweet. Vegas may have been the best vacation of my dad's life, yet he almost missed it. He was diagnosed with stage 3 prostate cancer late last year. He started hormone therapy shortly after that, and his doctor told him to expect multiple rounds of chemotherapy. Chemo would have extended through the conference week, which would have prevented travel. My mom and daughters went to their first Bitcoin conference in Nashville 2024. They got a glimpse into this world that my wife and I have dedicated so much of our lives to. I wanted to share that experience with my dad. Deep down, we all seek some level of approval from our parents and loved ones. To be able to say, hey, look, I did something with my life. Bringing the family to Vegas would be the best way to do that. In early April, we received the best news possible. Not only was the cancer gone from the lymph nodes, but it had decreased in the prostate. He was clear to travel. If you met my dad this week, then you saw how much fun he was having. He was like a kid, talking to everyone, shaking hands, enjoying every single moment. He had this to say after day 1. It's like one big family where everyone knows each other. The people there are so nice. No one is too snobby to talk to you. David Bailey, BitSmash, and the entire team at the Bitcoin conference were all very supportive of me and my family. They are grateful for the little bit of fun I had to the conference and gave my entire family passes for the week. This couldn't have happened without them. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'll see you guys in 2016, hopefully with the family again. You went on to write, didn't party all this week. Opted to hang out with my family each night, followed by 5+ mile walks. Slept 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. each day. Sunrise walks to the gym for an early morning walkout. Felt like the perfect way to do a Vegas conference. What's your takeaway on that? I mean, I saw you guys in Nashville and you looked like you were having an amazing time. And then
did you have I'm just curious, I know you're getting a little emotional right now. Is there something like you can relate to with this? Is that why?
I lost my dad.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost him 3 years ago. And I went to Miami right as he got surgery. He really wanted me to go. I thought it was great. And I knew I shouldn't be there. And I should have been with him. And I came back. I had a few weeks left with him, but I would have loved what you had.
Yeah. And it's part of like, like I was talking about, like where you have like, you feel like you have like I was talking about, like, I feel like I have a gift with like the sleeping thing. There's a lot of that, like these types of things where it's like the closeness with the family. It can feel like a gift sometimes where it's like, like not everybody has this. And I think it's important to appreciate, to take that time to be like, I really appreciate, like, I don't know why I'm in this situation where it's like, I have this and somebody else doesn't, but like I have it. And it's like, I shouldn't, forget that. I should remember how important that is, because I'm not going to have that forever, and it's like, I try not to get too morbid about this with my kids and stuff because it can sound very morbid, but the reality is it's like you don't know how much time you have with people. And like it's nice to be like to be able to show them like that part of your life that you dedicated so much of your time to be like, hey. And he was like, I don't know if I want to go. I don't really know that much about Bitcoin. And then I'm like, just come with us. It's like you're gonna have a great time. And like it was so wholesome. This is a man who he celebrated his 78th birthday where we were out there. We went out to a dinner. It was great. It was a good time. And he was up with me every day. We went to the conference. He'd come out there, and he was just nonstop on his feet. Just it was so cute to see. Like, like there's always people handing out stupid like just swag that like it's just garbage advertising. Whatever. He took it like he won everything was like he won a prize. And then I'm like, whatever, just take it. Like he had and then we'd get back to the Airbnb, he'd pass out. No complaining at all. He's walking around doing all this stuff. Go back to the Airbnb, just fall asleep. And then we're like, hey, we're going back out to do it. And he's just up and he's ready to do it again. And then when we weren't doing anything, he's just going back to sleep. Or then he was hanging out, talking with my wife. And my wife loves watching birds and stuff like out in the garden and with the Airbnb. And they were hanging out together. So it was just like really cool. Like I could just tell him like by the end of the week, I'm like, my dad is having the best vacation of his life. And he almost couldn't have, and it's like, he almost wasn't here, like, not like he was still doing like the cancer wasn't that bad, but like, and I actually just got news literally an hour ago from my mom, an update on his cancer. And she's like, everything's great. He just had he just had a follow up. They're still going to do more testing and stuff, but like he's in a great spot right now, which is awesome. They thought at first he had like stage 3 cancer. So it's like, it's like nothing but good news all year since, he was diagnosed last year. And I'm just like, I'm so glad, like, even if things turn for a worse, which, I'm so glad they haven't, but it's like, we got to have that time, like he got to spend time. And my kids, their favorite people in the world are their grandparents. They just got back from visiting them in Florida. They spent 2 weeks. And like when they left, they just want to go back and spend time with my parents. And my parents, they're texting me like, oh, I missed the girls already. Like it's like they've been gone for a few hours. So it's like, I love that. Like, I love that they have that because it's like, I don't have my grandparents anymore. And I think back to my yaya and papu, and it's like, I have so many memories. Like to me, like there's so many times when I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking. I just happened last night. I swear I'm mixing certain spices and I'm cooking something and I just have to stop because it's like so emotionally powerful because I'm hit with a smell of a food and I'm instantly teleported to like my youth. I'm in the kitchen with my yaya and she's there with her apron on and she's cooking and, like there's no meal that you can eat. There's no meal that I could eat anywhere that could come close to just like this simple dish that my grandma was making just because of those, like, it's amazing what memories can do to food, right? Like how great the food tastes because of like the love and everything, right? So to me, like food's my language, my love language. Food was her love language, and then she passed that on to me and my mom as well. So it's like, there's very powerful moments like that,
Yeah.
But like with Vegas, it was so cool to bring my dad in because, like I said, my mom and my kids saw firsthand. I mean, I've been talking. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to be like, just come, just see. And people complain about conferences. They talk about how much, oh, they had this shit coin talker guy speaker, blah blah blah. It's like, look, you go to every conference I've been to. I don't care if it's a Bitcoin only conference. There's always somebody there that I don't like. And they're speaking and I don't want to hear what they have to say. And you know what? Whatever. I don't care. It's fine. I just won't talk. I just won't see them. And I'll go see I'll go do the things I want to do. And this time around, the things I wanted to do, there was a lot of them. There were a lot of events I wanted to go to. There were things that I was like, I'm definitely going. And I didn't show up to any of them. I just hung out with my family the whole week and it was awesome. And I never would have thought that. Like because like usually I go to these things and I want to be like, I want to go to this and that. And I want to hang out with these people. But like, I ended up just hanging out with my parents and my kids and my wife. And we had the best time. It was amazing. And it was like, it's so cool to be able to do that. And it's like, like I wish everybody could experience that. But at the same time, you have to, at some point, like that's the reality, right? Like your parents aren't around forever or things happen and tragedy strikes. But like, that's why you have to really just enjoy that time you have. Because then you can look back on that and just be really thankful for that time.
For sure.
That's just life.
Oh, you seem to have a knack for bringing people together, especially through food. So if you ever need an investor for Mandrik steak and Baklava house, I'm in.
Oh God! If I have to do a food, then it won't be a passion. If I have to sell
get
it
you
again.
a cook. You brought people together with the meetup, Mandrik's meetup in Vegas.
Yeah.
We all went to a steakhouse, a Brazilian steakhouse, got cuts of meat. I think there was 300 plus people. You did this. You have a knack for bringing people together. It was one of the best events in Vegas, and there was no profit involved for the entity hosting the event. I mean, obviously, we paid money for the steak at the steakhouse. That was a fantastic event. I'm looking forward to that next year. But you do have this knack for being in the right place, the right time. You got to meet Ross Ulbricht backstage before or after he made his speech. What was that like for you?
It was pretty cool. I got to give him some baklava, which was awesome. I gave him a little tray of it. But no, I've been a huge supporter of Ross's. His mother is like MVP. She's incredible. Like, he's out of prison because of her. Like, she dedicated her life to getting him out, and he's out. Like, she is incredible. She's been going to the Porkfest for years, Porcupine Freedom Festival. Like, she has just been on the ball. But like, meeting Ross is a big inspiration for me, because it's like, the whole idea of like the Silk Road is agorism. The idea that like a free marketplace, no government regulation type thing. I mean, that's what my baklava business was. I ran it without regulations. It was a little bit of like this like way to fight. I mean, it wasn't like illegal. But it was a gray market thing, because it wasn't. I was just doing it off the books, and I wasn't doing it with any food licensing. I was doing it in my own kitchen, like the way you should be able to do it. And it's easy to do that when you're not really making much money. But of course, the company, if it would have grown to this huge company, then I would have had the ISR on me eventually. But so like, to me, like, the Silk Road was always a big inspiration. Like, I think what Ross did was it's the reason Bitcoin is what it is today. And a big part of that is because of the Silk Road. There's just no doubt about it. Some people think it's a net negative. Those people are idiots in my book. The Silk Road is a huge part of why Bitcoin's successful today. Because Bitcoin's not about the transactions that you're allowed to make. It's about the ones you're not allowed to make. And that's what it's about, being able to say like, oh, you're saying I can't do this? Well, fuck you. I'm going to do it anyways. I love that. Like, you can send money to people in sanctioned countries, do things like that. Like, and maybe that's good. It's a double-edged sword. That could be terrorism. That could be bad things, but that's what freedom is. Freedom isn't always like good things. Like, people do bad things with freedom, and that's just the reality.
Yeah.
And I'd rather live in that world than a world where you're restricted, where you're just, it's a nanny state. Like, I don't want to live in that world. I'd rather live in a world where people are allowed to interact with each other and, peer-to-peer freedom, all that stuff. So yeah, meeting Ross is incredible. It was so cool. But you could tell like he was a little nervous, because it's just, I mean, how could he not be? Like, he's like, he was in prison for so long. An insane situation. But yeah, he was the star of the show, right? Like, everybody wanted to see him. Everybody wanted to meet him. And it was really cool to get that opportunity, for sure.
Yeah. I hope you got to shake his hand.
I did, yeah.
Congratulations on his freedom, and thank him for his work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's been some moment. I'm going to read a bunch of your tweets.
Sure.
I hope you guys are ready to donate to Ross Ulbricht when he's finally released. Bro should never have to work another day in his life. Before BIP32, I generated single sig addresses on an offline computer that included the private and public keys. I printed them out with an offline printer. I laminated those pieces of paper. I threw the computer and printer in a fire. Still better than owning Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah.
The majority of the people involved in the block size war were not evil, both sides. The same goes for the current Bitcoin drama. This isn't a moral fight of good versus evil. It's two sides that disagree on things. Evil exists, but disagreement does not equal evil. I'll say what others have already said. Bitcoin treasury companies are this cycle's ICO, NFT, DeFi. Let's see what happens in the coming years. 50,000 sats, says Loomis. Senator Cynthia Lummis doesn't even know how to send a Bitcoin transaction for spending. Samson Mao was quoted as saying it's not going to be a gradual, slow increase to 1 million of Bitcoin, but rather a very short and violent upheaval that sends us there in a matter of weeks to months. You wrote, spoiler alert, Samson has no fucking clue how Bitcoin will reach 1 million. No one does. Agreed here.
I love picking on Samson. I've known him a lot.
I love that you guys have been around. We'll chat it up like that on Twitter.
Yeah.
We need a little bit of aggression out there. If Bitcoin needs Trump to succeed, then it was doomed from day one. You can always tell who the pieces of shit are in life based on their opinions of Assange, Snowden, and Ulbricht. There was a tweet from Michael Saylor that said the crypto renaissance has officially begun. You wrote, it's time to slay your heroes, class of 2020. Sly R. Goomba wrote on X, every weekend I think about going to the store to buy a PS5. But then I remember Mandrik hasn't ate a piece of baklava since 2011. That keeps me going. Low time preference is everything.
He can buy it now. I ate the baklava. He can buy the PS5. Okay,
We love to joke about being autistic Bitcoiners, but this is a very real thing for some of us. Being a Bitcoiner who has never read the white paper is an example of this. I love learning, especially on my own, but the hardest way for me to learn is through a technical piece of writing. It doesn't matter how easy it is for you to understand. It's never easy when you're actually autistic. And yet, I started to grasp Bitcoin by early 2012, after a few months of using it. I tried reading the white paper a few times during those early months, but it didn't make sense. So I gave up and went back to using Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, and talking about Bitcoin. That made sense. Our Bitcoin journeys vary, and understanding comes in many different ways. Yet so many of us have come to similar conclusions on what Bitcoin is and why it is important. That's what matters. How many technical papers or books you've read or podcasts you've listened to is less relevant. The white paper is a very important part of Bitcoin history, worthy of celebrating. I have it hanging on my wall.
Mine's right here. Yeah, there it is.
One day I'll read it. Probably not. So my final question to you, are you ever going to read the Bitcoin white paper? It is right behind you on the wall.
It's literally right here.
You can read it after you roll off of this.
You know, I'm glad you read that tweet, and I'm glad you wore that shirt, because so much of how I learn has come from like fiction or from music. Rage Against the Machine, big time. I mean, like, look, if you're in your 40s and you were a teenager when Rage hit the scene in the 90s, that shit was revolutionary. Like, they rage for the machine now, but like they were raging against the machine back then, and it was, you didn't hear music like that. Like that was like insane to hear in like 1993, and so many ideas. Like I could have sat there and read books about the government or whatever story, but whatever. But like hearing it in music, and like I always felt like something was wrong with government and things like that. Like maybe there are solutions that are like, okay, I don't agree with their solutions or whatever, and it wasn't fleshed out or whatever. But when you're like young and you have these ideas and you don't fit in because of whatever, like hearing that kind of music, it resonates with you. But like if I read a book about like facts and stuff, it does nothing for me. Like it just doesn't. But I read all the time, and I learn so much from fiction stories, because fiction is just like, there's a person behind that writing it, and they're getting life lessons from that, right? Like they're pulling their life experiences and stuff into that writing. And I have an easier time applying that to the real life than I do like a textbook or something, right? Like that's how I learn better, through those types of things, through stories. I mean, it's like parables in the Bible, right? I just learn better through stories, through art, and through doing hands-on. So like I just don't, there's no reason to read the white paper, especially now at this point. Like what's the point? When somebody explained Bitcoin to me, I was like, this just sounds like a weird scam, right? Like this isn't going to last. But then it took receiving Bitcoin, using it, seeing how it can be used. That's where understanding comes in. And like when I started working at startups, I had no idea how to do the job. There wasn't any manual. There was nobody to train you. It was just like, figure it out. And it's like, I figured it out through experience, through doing it. And I love learning that way. And I think that's, to me, is like, yeah, autism, like we love all calling ourselves autistic retards in Bitcoin, right? Like that's like such a meme at this point. But a lot of us probably are autistic, like for real. Like that's just the thing. And you could use that as a crutch, as your identity or whatever, or you can just kind of be jokey about it, while also recognizing that, hey, maybe you do have a learning disability. You have to learn a different way. But so what? You just learn a different way then. You figure out how it is you can, that, like when you know yourself better, like as you get older. When you're younger, it sucks, I think, especially pre-internet days. But like nowadays, man, there's a million different ways to learn something. And all you got to do is just go out there and try and figure it out. That's all. That's what I do. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners are like that. A lot of us are like autodidactic. Like we teach ourselves things. And it's not because we're like special and super smart. It's because like we're literally just like so retarded that we're like, hey, look, I'm not going to bother you. Like, I don't want to sit here and ask questions because it's like, I'm just going to figure it out myself. Like, just leave me alone. I'll figure it out. Like, that's just how, and then sometimes it's like, you do have to ask questions, but like, that's a whole other thing. But in general, yeah, like, I think it just takes hands-on experience for a lot of times for certain things, at least for me, but not everybody's like that. You know, not everybody. A lot of people have said like they read the white paper and they were like, this is the most beautiful thing I ever read. I'm like, cool. I don't know. I'm like, okay. But the same thing about like the Bitcoin Standard. If I read the Bitcoin Standard as my intro to Bitcoin, I'd have been like, I'd have just thrown the book. I'm like, I don't know. But I love that book. It's one of my favorite Bitcoin books because I already understand Bitcoin. You know, and I'm like, okay, I get it. But like is my intro to Bitcoin. But how many people have read that book as their intro to Bitcoin and been like, this is the most revolutionary thing I ever read, right? And that's great. Like, that's why I love that there's so many Bitcoin podcasts, even though I don't listen to them. Like, there's so many. I just, you know, like there was a time, I think with podcasts in general, or certain types of media, books included, you might reach a point in your journey where you're like, hey, I don't need this anymore necessarily, or maybe I'll just listen to it here and there. But there's always somebody who does. There's always people who do. And even though you might be talking about, like, the people on the show might be talking about a subject that who've been in Bitcoin for 5+ years are like, I've heard this discussed so much. I already know, like, this conversation again. There's people that are hearing it for the first time and they're like, oh my God, this is great. So it's like that I think it's important. All these things are important. You know,
makes me think of two things. One, the movie Zoolander with Hansel. He was like the original, like, I don't care character, just straight vibing. And there's a scene where he says, like, I love Sting. I don't listen to any of his music, but just the fact that he's making it, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
The other is, if Rage Against the Machine had a white paper, I think it would just be, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah.
And I could have named the show the Bitcoin Against the Machine. I mean, just having that, like you were saying, as a primer, like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. I'm going to question everything. Just because you tell me doesn't mean it's right or it's good for me. That's huge. It's and that was 1993. Yeah.
Yeah. I was 13 years old and I remember that song was like, as in different points in their life, they hear that, they're like, oh, it's just some vulgar thing. But like, some of us, it resonated. We're like, I get it. Like, I understand. Like, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's abrasive and saying fuck you, like, I won't do what you tell me over and over and over in a song in the 90s was unheard of, right? Like, that just was not a thing. So there was a meaning to it. It wasn't just to be like, it wasn't to just be abrasive to be abrasive, right? It wasn't just like, oh, we're trying to shock the world. It wasn't like that at all. There was a real message there. And I think for some of us who heard that, it really resonated, right? Like, I mean, you're wearing that shirt. I mean, that album cover's from 1993. Like, yeah.
I'd love my kids to be like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Not to me, but to the world, telling them what to do. It's not saying don't listen to good advice. Don't listen to your elders. Don't be smart. Keep your head on a swivel. Know what's going on. Yeah. Think critically.
Critical thinking.
But like, fuck you, I won't just do it because you told me to do it. Like, question everything. Question authority. Authority has to be earned in some ways, or credibility has to be earned. Dude, this has been so dope. I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm finally glad it came together.
Me too, man. I'm so glad we finally sat down and talked to each other. I'm
glad we troubleshot before the show and technical difficulties. Hopefully this comes out well. So I'll leave it to you for any parting words, and I'm sure you don't even care about this, but let people know where they can find you.
I mean, I'm on Twitter, Mandrik, Mandrik. I got nothing to sell, nothing to promote. Even with the baklava, I just give it out when I go to conferences. It's fun. It's like a throwback to like how I got into Bitcoin. It's fun to do. It's like the best social lubricant. Like I said, it's a cool way for me to meet people. They come up to me. I'm really bad about coming up to people, so it's like the best way to get people to come up to me. And I get to play like this guy who's like, hey, it's fun. I just enjoy giving out food. Like I said, it's my love language. So if you see me at a conference, just come up, and if I have baklava, I'll hook you up.
It's like antisocial, but we'll talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you antisocial. I just mean, when
no, I get it. Yeah,
I get the icebreaker, man. Like I said, it's been so dope. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Bitcoin Matrix. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with any questions or thoughts you may have. We'd love to hear from you. You can support the show by checking out our sponsors and affiliate links in the description. It helps keep bringing you great content while connecting you with awesome products that I believe in. Share this episodes with your friends, family, or anyone curious about Bitcoin. and let's keep growing this community together. Stay curious, keep stacking, and I'll catch you in the next one.